Okay, take note that the first assignment has a 0 if you did not complete it, and your game name from yesterday has been graded. So everything for this class has been graded. All books are up, all earbuds are out your ear. I need your attention today. Come on. You completed your ER, you checked your grades. I need to correct something, but I need your attention to correct. I'm gonna apologize first. I was moving, I think a little too fast when I did this. The assignment, basic computer component definition. I told you to turn in the definitions here for a grade. But when I go back, the definitions came here. Learning style inventory. So click on learning style inventory. Yeah. And because I gave you another set of definitions on that, and I think some people thought that that was the one, and I should have explained it further. On learning style inventory, when you click it, duration, I think that's 7. You get these words. All right, these 6 words is what I was looking for to be turned in on the assignment. These are the basic components of the computer and their relationship. You got Wi-Fi, input device, output device. Let's talk about input and output for a minute. When you bring up your system and you type in information, or let's type it in. You type it in, our computer processes it or thinks about it. And then it gives us, this is input. It gives us the output on our screen, right? So we look at our output, we realize it's something we don't like. We come back and we get our mouse, we make our changes to our input. It processes it here again on the CPU, which is a central processing unit, the brain of the computer. It's right here for you. It's inside here. And then it gives you a visual output again. All right, that's input and output. Now, we can talk about software, but if you remember from 6th grade, software applications and operating systems and application programs sort of went together. Does that make sense? Because you had the operating program, which was the house or the home. So when I come to your house and I knock on your door, your parents come to the door because they're the homeowners. Or you come to the door because you stay in the home with your homeowner. Now, when you push the button to cut your system on, you're knocking. And when your system comes up, after it gets through the black and white script for loading, the codes to load it, then you see the operating system flash. What are some operating systems that we use? Phone. When you cut your phone on, what's the first thing you see in Big Bowl 11? Who?
The numbers, like a time.
I heard it. What was it? Apple. Okay, because that's an operating system. So if Apple is an operating system, what's the competition to Apple?
Android.
Androids or Samsung. They're operating systems. Does that make sense? So when we get to the operating system, it loads up. Now you have to talk about your application program or your software application. What are you trying? If we are in Apple and we want to play a game, we go where? Or Android, and we want to play a game, where do we go?
Apple Store.
To the App Store, and in the App Store we will buy, give me a game.
Pokemon Go.
Okay, there you go. Now, the teacher said, oh, I don't want you playing the game. I need you to do your assignment. And we got to type our definitions. So where do I go? What application program or software application am I using? Google Docs, application program, okay? Now I need to do a presentation because she don't want the definitions just typed. She want me to do a slideshow. Where do I go? Applications. Does that make sense? Okay, so with that being said, let's talk about how information moves or is used. That's sort of where we're at, which is number 4 and number 5. In 6th grade, we talked about connecting computers, and we talked about connecting the Ether ports, the Ethernet ports, which is in the back of your computer. These are actually stuck in here so that you can use them. Your iPads are wireless to connect, right? All right, so they connect through the Wi-Fi or the internet. So these are the words that you describe for me or define for me on like day 2 or 3, right? So now, when you're moving information through the internet by Wi-Fi or by Ethernet port, you have to move it through with an IP address. What's an IP address? Somebody, anybody? Talk so they can hear you.
IP address is a unique address that identifies a device on the internet or local network.
Okay, it identifies a device on the internet. Now, when we think about it, there was, well, sometimes the address, the IP address can change. Let me make that statement up front. Every computer has a group of IP addresses that it uses. So when you log in the first time, it may use one address, and when you log in the second time, it may use the same address. But they have the protocol for the beginning is the same. It's after it leaves from that you start to see a difference. So it's a set of numbers, and it'll start off with something like, they're in the United States. In the United States, they're in Georgia. And then in Georgia, they're in where? Where we at? Hinesville? Does that make sense? Or it may say Liberty County. And then it'll say you're at Lewis Frazier. And then it's going to give your CPU number. Now, it's not that long, but that's pretty much what it does. It breaks it down from where you're at. If you remember some of the videos that was out there, or movies that was out there, you can see even the TV series where they're looking for people, they're searching for somebody, and they get that phone call and they try to trace the phone call, and it starts off, and they'll say, oh, it's coming from another country, or no, they're not in New York, they're in California. So they start to trace where they're at and bring it in the narrow. Sometimes they get to the house exactly where the person's at, right? Other times they get close and they lose the connection. So they have a wider area to search from. Well, what they're looking for is the IP address. Any device you have has an IP address. Phone, tablet, iPad. I see it more with 7th graders than I think I do with any other grade. When you lose your iPad, Miss Jennings, Dr. Jennings, will ding it, and you come down the hallway, what does it sound like? Because she's pinged your iPad. She's used the IP address in order to figure out where the iPad was located. Am I making sense? You see the purpose? Now that can work in one of two ways, because once people figure out where you're at, they can start marketing that area if it's something they want to sell you. Am I making sense? A lot of my students at Lewis Frazier Middle School are all looking at this on the internet. So you'll start seeing more and more ads to whatever it is linked to your computer. We'll get into that. That's another story though. All right, so they can start doing it that way. Also, at the same time, you can take an IP address and you can hide yourself. We'll talk about that a little later, I think. But what it is usually, no, you don't get to it. 6th grade did it. You get a VPN where it says, even though you're in Lewis Frazier, it stops maybe somewhere in here, and it's going to take you from Georgia to California. And then it'll have you going in all different places as they look for you, as they try to find your address, because it sort of hides your address and tucks it in under a whole bunch of random towers that it's pinging off of, and it's keeping you covered. Does that make sense? So now, is that necessary? It depends on what you're doing. You don't always want where you at disclosed, and that can take place, and that can be helpful to you. So just talking about IP addresses. Are there any questions? We know what they're for. We know how they're used. All right, tomorrow we'll have some more information on the IP address that we'll talk about in class, and you'll get a video to look at, and we'll run that a little further. So with that all said and done, no questions being asked, what you're going to do is you're going to go back to the Learning Style Inventory, click on Direction 7. Mine is not tapping right now. There you go. And you'll click on Terms, and that's the assignment that you turned in yesterday for a grade. So if you turned in the other set of definitions that was on yesterday's assignment, because when you went to yesterday's assignment, this is what it looked like. No, not yesterday, Wednesday. When you went to Wednesday's assignment, this is what it looked like. And it said turning your basic computer component definitions for a grade. But then on duration 7, it said take the choice board, look up the definitions and turn them in for a grade. So some people turned in those definitions. Those definitions are not due yet. That's gonna be your second set of definitions. All right, am I making sense? Any questions? So you'll see those definitions I think need to be turned in here. All right, but we'll get to that when I go through and explain that activity. So with today's assignment, which is Tuesday, take your basic component definitions, the 6 we just went over, and you're going to create a crossword puzzle. Talk to me, baby.
Wednesday we're supposed to turn in.
For who?
For Wednesday we're supposed to turn in the definitions.
What is Wednesday's assignment? What's the name of it?
Wednesday is basic computer.
Yeah, you should have turned it in Wednesday.
You're supposed to turn in this definition.
No.
Oh. Really?
On Wednesday, we did the definitions on Tuesday in learning style inventory. I'm sorry, Monday, March 14th is where we did the definitions. Then they was due on Wednesday under basic computer components definition.